Now open up the June 7th, 2023 select board meeting. Do we have any amendments to the agenda? All right, we'll take a quick approval of the minutes of May 17th. A motion to approve.
I'll make that motion. To approve the
Second.
minutes. I'll second.
Do you have any additions, corrections, deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. So do we have any comments from the community? No.
People from Corley Road would like to come on next meeting and talk about
I've been watching.
some of the. It's having a rippling effect on the road and it's becoming.
Parking?
It might, it's parking too.
Oh.
It's, if they do parking on both sides, it's hard to get through.
What's the rippling?
So from the road, Route 15 down to the rail trail, if you please drive it past, it's like, it makes this noise in your car.
It's wash.
Yeah.
And that's something that you would just have the road crew needs to go and grade it, I believe, or is it being caused by all the people that are going down there to park?
Pretty much.
I have been watching because I'm up right there 2 or 3 times a day. It has been an issue that I think the board needs to address.
We just feel if the corns, they're not gonna be able to park so far away off the road with the corn coming up, and it's gonna make it even harder to park. If they park on both sides, we just wondered if maybe we could get some signage that they only park on one side.
Well, that's, the board is gonna have to come up with something.
That was it.
They definitely need signage. I don't think people need to come to the next meeting.
Okay, well, we didn't know how we should address it, so. If we should go to the state or come to you guys.
Well, maybe we'll bring it up, we'll have a initial discussion under select board review.
Okay.
And then, bring any decisions up at the next meeting. The only thing I have is, if you don't know already, that, the Moyle Valley Rail Trail celebration is set for July 15th. It's gonna start in Swanton. I guess the governor's going to be biking the entire 93 miles. Then they're going to have a brief stop in Morrisville. I guess Senator Sanders will be there and go through. So they're basically encouraging all communities along the rail trail to plan their own celebratory events for July 15. The state and Senate office will help promote local events to get the word out about the celebration and let them know this pretty much is from 7:30 in the morning, it kicks off in Swanton and ends at 7:30 at night in St. Johnsbury.
And Jackie called today looking for photographs of this area. She wants the governor to stop and look.
But we should think about having some kind of signage up by then, don't you think? At least letting people know that it's Wolcott.
I have some signs that I just need a sign post for that I had made up based on a grant.
We need to find out where the railroad right of way ends, so we can put it in, or we can check with Jackie to see if we can put it in there. That right of way, that's my only question. But I think we also should, let the community know. I don't know if they want to come out or have an ice cream social or something. I don't know, but something we should think about.
Yeah, the park can work with the library, and I've been in communication with that art group about doing something in the park this summer. kind of collaborate. So we could have an event. We would do it then.
Well, I'm saying we should have at least something on the 15th, for people going through, or for the community to know that it's happening.
So you know the governor has stopped here. He took so one Friday, this man came in and asked if he could use the bathroom, and I said, yeah, I'm closing in 5 minutes, but sure, you know. And it was the driver for the governor. So they both used the bathroom and they walked out to the road to have got back. Pardon. So he is aware of us being on the mission. We should invite him back.
He's going to be driving through. Kurt said he's going to be stopping.
But she's encouraging to stop.
Oh. So he's gonna have a reason to stop.
Big sign, welcome.
You know, they're setting up watering stops along the way. Wolcott just is perfect.
We should maybe put restrooms available, maybe that.
Free beer.
Yeah, that'll do it.
But it would be nice to have, some community out
Yes, good idea.
there. We have a month to come up with something. All right, I'm not gonna go through the correspondence right now. Why don't we just quickly go into, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session on a personnel matter.
I'll second the motion.
I'd like to also invite Belinda to be present.
Get that.
No?
You need to vote?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm gonna make a motion that we, put a letter in Sylvia's file outlining some of our concerns. And that, he will also, meet with Kurt to go over it. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Are the speakers on? They're not lit.
It should be blue or white.
We can hear you.
Okay. Either way.
Do you stay for the whole meeting or are you gonna leave? Yeah. You're leaving?
I'm only gonna take 10 minutes of your time.
It's okay.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. If you want me to speak out, that's all right. So I sent out, everything to the board. At this time of year, before the end of the year, we do the internal, financial control checklist for the municipalities. That is the first thing, and then the board signs off on it if they are okay with what is written on paper. If they have concerns, we can discuss it. Any questions?
Good to me.
The only thing I do want to, one of the things, was a question, was my first don't know, was have select board members attended financial trainings? Is that something you guys are interested in doing, or maybe because Linda is knowledgeable in this, you feel you guys have enough training?
Would love to, but I work full time.
Yeah. I just was asking, but that was a question I did not know.
Well, I've attended numerous ones.
So I can change that to yes or one. So the next thing is, I gave you guys, the profit and loss for the transfer station and for the town. The next meeting, we will go over if we want to move anything, over into fund balances. The transfer station actually looks very healthy since the town is at this point gave it some money to catch up with. And eventually, I hope that that won't be a problem in the future, but we'll have to keep in mind.
So it's always been a cash flow problem at that time of year.
Yeah.
Because of people are stockpiling their garbage in the winter.
So the transfer station is pretty cut and dried, I thought. It's pretty much in line with what we thought. The only thing that is kind of empty right now is the litter committee. I don't know if they're going to be doing any activities before the end of the year, June. Because there is money in the budget, but if we don't have to use it, that might be a good thing.
Which budget?
This budget we're in right now.
Town or transfer?
Transfer,
Transfer station.
yeah, $2,700.
Yeah. Well, we are going to be doing bulk there,
Before the end of the month?
probably.
Okay, that's just good that I know that, because then I can anticipate that.
You see, it's a little bit dependent. We were going to do it the same day Presper was going to do it. Presper is supposed to not do that. And so it's a matter of arranging with Sweet and Billy.
For another dumpster,
Yeah,
yeah,
so it's right now, we're looking at the last Saturday in June.
okay, the 24th, I think it is.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. The other thing for the next time, the profit and loss for the, town, there are some areas that we could in highway, but I wanted to talk to you about it. You guys had okayed a invoice for Lafayette, and we had 5,000 in the budget, which we spent and gave them 5,000. But their whole eventual bill is going to be 20 grand. And if we don't use the amount of money that we need that is budgeted for bridge repair, is there any way we could go over our guardrail budget? Because we will be under our bridge repair budget.
Well, our agreement with Lafayette was to install the guardrails, recognizing that it's in 2023-24 budget.
Right, 5,000 this year, and then the rest will be in the next.
Correct.
But you are going to have money left in, you could move it over to the new budget if you wanted to, or you could just pay it out now. I'm just giving you that option.
Did you look at this
Yeah.
overall? Every department's over. I do not want to spend whatever little money we have in somebody's budget that we can squeak out, the better, because it's, to me, it's alarming.
There's only a couple areas it's under, that is highway, right now they are under. And the other one is actually in elections, there's like, we didn't spend any.
Zoning, that's the only ones that are under.
Yes, well, my budget's under too, but that's also because we anticipate a revenue to offset an expenditure that hasn't happened. So please look at the budget versus actual. This is through the end of May. It is accrual, so all the bills we had put in prior to May 31st is in here, but we will have more bills for June that will hit this budget.
I do have two questions.
Okay,
One is, so we did not budget for building maintenance.
that's correct. It's in your fund balance. You took some money. You actually, it looks like you took the remainder money that we got from Hyde Park funds when they closed us out and you moved out into $28,288.72. So after what you spent, and you had 5,800 in your fund balance for that, you're gonna have 11,000 left.
So what is showing up in this?
It's not in the general fund, it's just showing at the very end for other expenditures.
So it's the same money, and it's
Yes.
confusing, right, because I felt
It is
like,
the same money. The
Alright.
we spent 22,611.81. I didn't want to show it on the balance sheet, I mean, on the profit and loss, that's why I did not put it in the general fund. But the auditors told me I had to show it on there, so I put it in other expense.
so it looks like, so here it's saying we spent 15,000. Page 8.
Does that include the salary too?
Yeah.
No, I'm showing total building maintenance fund
Oh,
is 22,611.81. Because the repairs are 15,000 and the maintenance person is 7,500.
so that money all came out of our fund balance.
That is correct. Because it was not put in the budget the year we're in right now.
So if we have to show it as an expense, can't we show it as an income?
I can put the fund balance amount in there that offset it when we're totally done at the end of the year.
Well, I would do that because
Okay.
otherwise
Yes, absolutely.
it makes us look worse.
It does. It's just something I can't do yet until it ends and shows the amount.
But on page 5, you have a fund balance expense.
So that fund balance is, out of your capital, reserve and out of your highway trailer. I have to show them as, and I can individually under that fund balance, put subtitles and tell you what it was used for. One was titled,
Need to know.
yeah,
So I
one
know.
was School Street Bridge and the other was a trailer. The trailer was a little bit more than what we had budgeted.
So why couldn't we just put the 22,000 in there too? Because we didn't even have a budget for the building this year. We didn't even have it in there.
You mean you want to put it in the fund balance income?
It
I
doesn't-
can do that, yes.
Because we did not have a,
Yep,
because we neglected to put it in.
yeah, I'll have Edie do that on
Okay.
our part.
Those were my 2 questions. I don't know if anyone else had any questions.
So my only question was regarding the DOC payment, which you explained that,
Yes,
but you do, it is, you know, it is expected, correct?
they haven't billed us since February. I really don't know if they just, what happened?
I don't know.
There isn't a phone number on the last bill.
Yeah, but that just went to a voicemail. Yeah. It's like the office is closed. I don't know what to do. It's like, you know, everybody, it might still be working from home. I'm not sure. The last thing I have is the loan. So I sent the loan papers out to everybody. This is our cash management plan or our line of credit plan that we do each year. For anticipation of tax revenue. They give us 2 different options. I will say last year's rate was a lot better than this year. It was 1.65. This year it's 3.8. When I asked the bank,
Was that the CD?
no, the cash management rate.
Okay, gotcha.
That's how much to borrow.
Right.
And then it tells you in these bids how much they expect us to make back. Based on, you know, and how much we keep in the fund in order to make the interest. And then the last page is the cash management, cash flow management plan that I give to the bank, and this is what they come up with. So there's 2 different options. You can do the cash management where we borrow, but then we reinvest it, and then we take it as we need it. and we still get interest from what is not taken. The second option is just a non-revolving line of credit. We just borrow it all up front. And then we take it and we use it as we want. Go from there.
What are we doing this year?
We did option one
Ooh,
because you make money.
right, well, on interest, right?
Well, well, they charge us for whatever we take out. But if we have over, so we take $500, we put it in another account, we're getting interest, but we can also borrow.
Gotcha.
And it's an expense, and so the game is not to make money.
Don't take it unless you need it. Whereas the other one is all up front, and your interest rate starts that day.
Yeah, understood.
So I just need a motion of which option you like. The other option is if we could put it out to bid. But from what I'm understanding, I've checked with a few other towns about what the interest rate is looking like for them. It's about the same.
There aren't many banks I found either that even want to.
They don't do this one.
And we have a cash management account set up. It's like a sweep account for the town. So it's already in place.
Well, I'm happy to make a motion to accept option one from Union Bank.
You have a second?
I'll second.
So we have a first and second to use the Union Bank for a loan amount of $380,000 at an interest rate of 3.80%. To borrow money for anticipated expenses for next year. All those in favor? Opposed? So carried.
Thank you.
Quick question on our ARPA funds.
Mhm.
That, there was a portion of that that put into CDs last
Mhm.
year, correct?
Yep.
When does that CD mature?
In the fall.
This coming, okay. And you're gonna reinvest in CD,
Yeah, if we can get a better interest rate.
because the interest rate is really good.
Yep, as soon as it comes available, we're gonna do it. Right now, we have ARPA funds left over as of today, about 406,000.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Wastewater's up.
You guys are on a tight ship. Yes. Thanks.
So, I think you all know that, several years ago, before the pandemic, Wolcott was part of a joint grant through the Northern Borders Regional Commission to study alternatives to address wastewater limitations in the village area on Route 15 and in School Street. LCPC has been working with the wastewater committee to help go through that study. Stone Environmental is the engineer who's been working with us on that. And tonight we have two things for you. We have the preliminary engineering report, which will outline sort of the findings of that study and what options you guys have. And then we have a discussion of a potential opportunity for funds to help with next steps for that project. I think the funding application was actually first on the agenda, so I will just briefly say, last night you received a draft application. It's titled State Revolving Loan Program. The way this is structured is villages, designated village centers working on projects like this. At least until the end of June, if an application is submitted, are eligible for up to $125,000 of subsidy, which means you would not have a payback, regardless of whether you decided to move forward. I think it probably makes, and that can cover engineering, public outreach, legal costs such as working out landowner agreements and coordination with the school forest, which these guys will talk more about in a little bit, as well as assistance with grant management, public engagements, are reaching out to people and businesses who live in the village. We are going to aim to, assuming you are interested in moving forward after hearing the PER results tonight, aiming to come back to you with a complete application for your second meeting in June, along with a cost estimate of what those next steps would look like, which would be basically getting to a point where the town would be ready to decide whether to move forward with that implementation.
So that document, you said it last night, I believe. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So if for some reason it comes up, I haven't been able to read it because
No, that same thing happened when Gina, sent me something that you wanted. And because it's fillable. And you can't, and I had to go to the office and get a copy.
I don't have 6 hard copies.
Okay.
Just do folks.
beautiful.
They can pass them around if you want them.
That solves it.
Yeah. Okay. And you'll see that it is the same application that the state uses for all water and wastewater subsidy and loan programs. So there's a whole big piece of financial information that will be populated over time as knowledge about the project evolves. And I'm looking awkwardly up at the Zoom screen for folks from ENR if they want to add anything about that.
Was there 6? Oh, I can put it up here.
Oh, here you go.
I'm not sure what you want me to add, Seth. So as part of, typically, if you had not had like the MBRC grant, you would have come into the Clean Water SRF loan program and started your journey from there through the step 1 process. There is subsidy that's normally available for village projects. This last IUP, it was up to 125,000 per project per year. We are actually at the end of that cycle, and we're actually out of subsidy as of this week for this cycle. The new cycle starts July 1st, or when the next IUP is adopted, which is sometime in July, because we're running a little behind on the IUP. And so you guys would be eligible for whatever that subsidy amount is. It's either going to be a little bit more or a little bit less than the 125. I haven't seen it yet myself. So I'm not sure exactly what that value would be, but that is 100% forgivable part of the loan. So you never have to pay that part back. So that's just another way to maximize the amount of money for the project that the community isn't bearing that cost for. And so this loan application is to start that process to get you guys in the door to keep moving the project forward. And then the ARPA grant is separate. And I actually will be sending out the grant language to that. I'm just not sure who it should go to, if it should go to Linda. So that you guys can start to read that, because the grant has to be signed by all the select board members related to ARPA. The technical part won't be in there, but I wanted to send over the grant language. Seth and Amy and Peter have already seen one of the grants. So they're familiar with the language, but I will include them in case you guys have any questions around the grant language. So it kind of is trying to, there's like this balance here of, getting the subsidy to put towards the project and the grant, and when you want to use the grant, and we leave the grant pretty open, if that's what you guys want to do, to make sure that if you find at one point there's a cash flow issue at all, because it's a reimbursement program, so you pay the consultant and then we pay you. That way, if you have to, you could do an invoice out of here, this bucket over here, versus if you've run out of subsidy over here. So it gives you guys some flexibility. And the subsidy is available for the planning and design. It is not available for construction.
And so subsidy means the $125,000.
Yeah, it'll be roughly about 125,000. I don't know exactly what the new number will be for the next, because our fiscal year starts July 1st. So I'm not sure exactly what the number is. It's around that same number. I just don't know what it is yet. But it's
That's
a
how
per
I
project.
keep it together in my head.
Yeah, so it's a per
Me
project
too.
per year. And it's
Yeah.
like a grant. We just can't call it a grant, because if we have to call it a grant, that means there's a lot more work involved in paperwork. So we call it subsidy.
Yeah.
Sorry, my kids are home.
Hi, kids.
Folks have questions at this stage, or are we ready to jump into the discussion of
I
the?
would like you to repeat your last sentence if you remember it, because I was trying to figure out which pot of money you were talking about, and so I was too busy thinking about that to hear what you said, and you said you could use it to this,
So subsidy can be used for planning, which is what we call step one, which at this phase would involve the environmental review and any work to complete step one. And then step two work, which is the design part of the work.
But no construction.
Yeah,
Right.
there's not subsidy for construction, but you guys have the ARPA grant. And, I suspect you're gonna need some other probably avenues for some money for the project. There are some MBRC grants available. I think they've already done their submission for this year, but there's always next year. If they're, sometimes they allow different counties to submit. Rural development is always an opportunity. There's the CRRP grants, which is through ACCD. Am I missing any, Seth and Amy and Peter?
That is the universe as I am presently aware of it.
Yeah, me too. And you can also use, I know some, one other town that's using some of their local ARPA as well.
Other questions for Emily at this moment? Okay.
Thank you.
Ready for the engineering?
Next round?
Yep.
Do you need to get us to, did you already approve going forward with this, or do you need that at all from us as a board, or?
It would be, so we will need to approve the final draft, but, it would be great if you're ready to approve in concept it moving forward, because there is workload for both Stone and LCPC to get it to final form, so, recognizing you will need to review the final application, it would be great to, if you're ready to approve it in concept tonight, that would be good.
I feel comfortable, but how's the rest of the board feel?
Yeah.
So make a motion that we move forward with the state revolving loan program.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you, Seth, for your work on this.
Do the engineers have any presentation?
Yeah, you're up next.
Do not have a full presentation.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't know if that would get you that other thing here. If you have any documents, you want to show, we have a document. Okay.
Oh, cool.
Put it up.
Great. Okay. Thanks.
You have the maps of the service here if you want them up when we get to that point. That's up to you guys.
I think that actually might be a good thing to just have on the screen
Yeah.
as we discuss. As when we were last before the committee and several members of the select board back in March, we brought you a 60% version of this document.
Yeah.
And that laid out 3 different potential alternatives for, I mean, it did a lot of other things too. But the thing that was really important at that point was the alternatives that had been developed to potentially collect, treat, and manage wastewater from most or all of the village. Those were alternatives 1 or 2. And then the potential to add a pre-treatment system to increase the capacity of alternative 2 as alternative 3. And at that time, we received the direction that you would like the engineers to proceed with alternative 2 for construction, but to the extent possible to include pre-treatment and the potential to have more capacity down the road by designing for alternative 3. So we took that under advisement and have been advancing the alternative 2/3 concept, and that is section, if you have a printout of the document, that's really section 5+. And it's not, fortunately, the whole thing, if you don't think about the appendices, is only 30 pages long. Don't think about the appendices. Do think about the appendices, because there's a lot of really good information in there, but the key pieces of information are included in the report. And then there's many linkages back and forth to different documents that reference detailed cost estimates for the alternatives, drawings, and other figures and maps, especially around environmental review and existing conditions. So the big things that are new in this, and I think we did not make many large changes to alternative 2 in terms of what the potential costs for project engineering, design, construction were. We adjusted a few things, but nothing that really blew the lid off in terms of the cost estimates that were presented to you back in March. Right now, the alternative 2 construction cost is sitting around 3.3 million. And then the total project cost, once you add in engineering, permitting, easements, legal, et cetera, other duties as assigned, is closer to 3.8 million. Right now, your funding stack is actually not all that terrible, but it doesn't include all of the construction costs or the total project costs. So if you, as we've already decided we're going to keep going, at least for the SRF application. So as we continue to advance, and SAP and LCPC will be willing to assist in securing more funds and trying to chase some of those things.
Yeah.
It's going to be important. One of the things in here, as you get into section 6, just lining out the recommended alternative, one big question that
that we've heard, both from you and from the committee members, was about, so total project cost, annual operating budget, what does that look like? And ultimately, what are users going to be expected to pay? And we've taken an initial shot at that. And I would say that it is a very rough initial shot and is absolutely subject to change because there are a lot of moving parts here. One of the biggest moving parts is whether the users are expected to pay both capital costs, debt repayment, and operation and maintenance costs going forward. Or if the town wants to consider putting some portion of the construction cost loan, if there is one, on the grant list or through some sort of general assessment, rather than requiring the users to pay all the costs of construction and operation. We have not taken an attempt to divide that out. It requires working with your treasurer and figuring some stuff out. And we'd like to do that moving forward, but we haven't done it yet in this report. Right now, the annual user costs, assuming that, Peter, can you help me with that? Assuming with the financial projection that we put forward, it's the bottom line is actually in section 7, conclusions and recommendations. Right now, we're projecting with the very preliminary information we have an annual user rate per equivalent residential unit, which is basically a single family house. And then you project that in different ways for non-residential uses, is about $1,200 a year.
There's also a table in section 6 that kind of shows that as well. Breaks it out. Gives a little bit of information on what we know about Indian households, income and affordability ratios. Like the ER. So we recognize that that's probably something that we're, as a team moving forward, we're going to work on getting that down.
Yeah,
I'm
Seems like
it's $100 a month.
Right.
I'm assuming depending on what funding source, Wolcott are probably full on the one which is the higher. Where they get more money coming in because of probably the income levels, I'm assuming.
One of the things that the select board may want to consider going forward is, and it can be a challenging thing to do, both from a resource perspective and a willingness to participate perspective. But it's possible that the median household income in the service area is lower than the townwide median household income, which is the smallest census thing that we have that we're able to calculate based on right now. That calculus of affordability can ultimately result in more flexibility in terms of grant loan percentages, depending on what funding vehicles you choose to pursue moving forward. It both, I think, Seth, you may be able to speak to the income survey piece better than me, but we've heard recently that both from a personal perspective and just people's willingness to do that, it can be a challenging thing to do. But in the case of the village, it might be worth trying.
So the data currently available through the census for Wolcott is a median household income of $62,000 a year. I think there's reason to suspect that that might be inflated for a variety of reasons, but particularly inflated in the village area. And the way for some of the funding streams to do that is to do what is called an income survey. But that does involve getting income information from people in the service area. And I think something for you to consider is whether that's worth doing, whether people would be responsive in providing that information, or whether it would be unwelcomed by people, in the service area. So, that is a decision point that you'll, probably later this year want to consider. It could potentially open the doors for additional grant funding if the numbers came back, showing, a number that was less than that.
Well, the section 8 housing,
Mhm.
a bunch of apartments.
One of the challenges, with the small sample sizes in the Vermont census is that oftentimes people who, have the lowest incomes tend also not to be people who respond to the surveys, or maybe more mobile, because they have to be more and such. And so that's one of the reasons why that number might seem inflated compared to your experience in the community. But unfortunately, the federal funding streams, that's currently what they use. So it's worth considering, because I think when we were looking at that annual user fee, we recognized that would be high for a lot of, folks. So there are also other ways in terms of how you structure the bond repayment, especially or pursuing additional funding. That's assuming about $1 million bond. So if you were to, that's correct too. Yeah, if you were to pursue another one of those grants that was mentioned earlier, that number would come down. And a lot of those, the two most likely grants that you could pursue would be the Community Revitalization Fund and Northern Borders Regional Commission, and your knowledge about businesses in the service area, any kinds of affordable housing in the service area would help structure stronger applications. And those would be things that are not than we necessarily did.
So when these numbers were put together, what was the assumed size of the service area?
So the assumed size of the service area at present for the alternative 2 is that all properties within the designated village center would be able to connect.
Okay.
There are a few properties along outside of the quarter-mile buffer that if we do connect for the designated village buffer, that if those chose to connect and the town chose to include them in the project, would not be eligible for the village wastewater ARPA funds, but they would be loan eligible.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Would it be helpful to sort of describe that based on some local landmarks? So the core kind of service area, which is alternative 1, includes all of School Street down to the elementary school. And then heading towards Hardwick ends at the bridge. If you're just doing alternative 1, the core, to the Nazarene Church. The kind of expanded full service area, which is what this number is for, includes a spur that goes from the School Street Bridge down to the last house before you get to the field by the Lamoille River, and then the homes from the Nazarene Church up to the gravel pit. So, there will also be, I think, a decision point for the select board in terms of those spurs of, whether I think you could include part of those spurs or one of them, depending on landowner interest and need, for example. But at this point, for budgeting purposes, it makes sense to include and do the engagement and decision making about whether to include the full spurs. Did those landmarks actually help? Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say gravel pit, which one is
The Grimes gravel and the others, not all the way there. Yeah.
realize that it's almost 7 o'clock. Are there more questions, comments, thoughts from the community?
I think we'll have a chance to read the document a little bit further.
Yes, yes.
But, I appreciate all your hard work, that's for sure.
I think one thing that I think Seth and I in particular would like to leave you and the members of the committee who are present, who are not part of the select board with, is there's a lot that we can do, but really getting a sense of how the folks in the service area who could participate in this project, what their level of interest and excitement or dread is. If you were willing to start to gather a sense of that as we continue to try to wrap up the preliminary interview and help you move forward as quickly as humanly possible with the next phase. To the extent that you can start to collect that information, it's really going to help us understand and LCPC as the likely coordinator of this whole thing and main advocate for this problem.
So
How much engagement do we need to do, and how, I think is going to be a really important thing to get a better sense of.
So, what would those questions look like? I mean, the first thing, people are gonna come up with is how much, and we're not ready for that, right? So.
At this moment, this is what we think. It is going to change.
Okay. But you're kind of looking for, is there enthusiasm? Is there doubt or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would speak up as a, on the wastewater committee, but as a citizen, that I own property in town. Bushy Gravel reminds me commonly that this area is 1.3 acres, is just completely covered with industry. 3rd century, early times. So I have plans for that property and I can't do anything without the sewer system. Economic growth in the town will be enhanced. The gentleman down here that just bought this land will need to put a mound system in or use this facility, use the sewer system for the town. So there's a $10,000, $12,000 cost that will be incurred there. Other places around the town will need sewer systems. So I think it's a great opportunity for the town and will greatly enhance the economic redevelopment of this town.
Yeah, it's key.
I think that's gonna be the selling point, that's how we're gonna have to sell.
Yeah.
That and another good question to ask people would be this. So if your house sewer system fails in your little lot,
Right.
are you ready to spend the 30+ grand on the new state designs? Which will require you to have a filter. Prove that before you go out, you have to have a filter, you gotta have your pump station, you gotta have the area for it. And the costs go up after that, and they also have more treatment in there too.
We're gonna send you out.
There are limitations on the store and associated buildings because of the lack of sources.
Right. Yeah.
So that kind of brings me around to, I was talking with Tasha today. Seth is gonna kind of be busy working on the Smuggler's Notch parking area. That's been one of his babies for a while, so Tasha's gonna kind of take over this summer to help us.
Okay.
But her first thing was, she wants and Seth also, a more robust wastewater committee. Because, just 3 or 4 people, we need more members, try to get more members, get some more excitement. That was her first ask. Do you know anyone else who's interested in revitalizing our downtown somehow, or?
Not offhand, but I'm sure there are people who will look around. copy that, yeah.
Yeah. To be clear, the folks who've been coming are great, but there's gonna be
Yes.
a lot of work to do. In
Yeah.
the next 2 years to make this happen. You're gonna need a few more shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, it's different strengths, you
Yes.
know, in terms of communication or organization or. So we could use a more variety of people,
All skill sets welcome.
Yes.
right?
Linda, may I ask a couple quick dumb questions?
Sure.
So this wastewater system, is this whole discussion that funding it is gonna be borne by the people that use it? Is
We
that,
haven't decided that yet.
okay, so that's part of the decision making?
Yes.
Because if the town is being, potentially, there's economic benefit to the whole town,
Right.
could that be, you know, the cost, I guess, part of the consideration
We
is to
need to think
distribute it.
about, you know.
Yeah. Right,
And I think the people that aren't in the village, a lot of the other people could afford it, where the people in the village, it's harder for them financially. So that might be a decision that we make, that the whole town would,
Yeah.
but that will have to be a decision, we need to do an ordinance. We have a lot of things to do. We need to get an agreement going with the school.
thank you.
Yeah.
That was my main question.
Very good question.
Any other questions or? So you're coming back next month, in 2 weeks?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
with the final?
With that, so what the loan application needs to contain is both the subsidy / loan application. Right now, the dollar signs are not folded yet. So that will come from the draft engineering services agreement, from LCPC's coordinator agreement draft, and a few other costs that are reimbursable under any of these programs, but that aren't really contractual, like legal. If the town has mail-in voting for the bond vote, we'll need to make sure those costs are covered. What else? There's a few other boxes that will also be outlined and included. One of the things that, and Emily may not, and I say this, once the application is submitted, it's fine if it includes a draft engineering services agreement, because everybody will need to go back and forth with the state and make sure that the costs that are included are able to be included and are reimbursable, and they need to sign off on that. That's why draft is fine. The part where you have some flexibility in how those costs are paid, whether it's through the subsidy or the grant or some other funding vehicle, is that sometimes the loan applications take some time to get through the entire process of approval and coming back to the select board for execution. So we'll be keeping you in the loop and continuing to move things forward. And at some point, there may be a decision time of how are we actually going to do this? So just keep an eye out for that. Did I say anything wrong?
No, I think the hardest part is, once the loan application is submitted, is the bond bank part of that process. And, just on the grant side, it's kind of tends to be, as Seth, Peter, and Amy know, there's a little back and forth. I think we've got some of the kinks figured out in terms of some of the language that one of the other towns was the guinea pig for. And so that might take a little time going back and forth before it's officially signed. But once the grant is signed and executed by the state and the town, that money is available. There's no wait on that money for reimbursement. Whereas the loan program might take I think the bond bank right now is taking about 6 to 8 weeks. Because they're short staffed like everyone, so that might take a little finagling, but it is a reimbursement program. So it may not end up impacting you because of the between the time of when you guys pay the invoices and when they can be resubmitted type of thing. So
Guess that was gonna be my question. Is there, once the loan application is approved, can it be retroactive going back if town's willing to take a risk and start?
yes,
Knowing they have
as
the ARPA funds?
Yep, as long the ARPA cannot, unless it's explicitly written into the grant agreement. But the Clean Water SRF, yes, can be, like, if you were working next month and the loan took longer, as long as it's included in the engineering services agreement, it is eligible.
Okay.
Because typically the town will execute that agreement, because that has to be executed while the loan stuff is being executed. And then that goes to Tom Brown and he starts doing his financial magic on that side of the wall over there. And I just know the bond bank takes a while right now, so.
So the bond bank, is that where the $2.5 million is coming from?
No,
You're
talking about
that's
the ARPA grant?
Yeah.
No,
Have
the
we
ARPA grant,
have we
yes.
got that grant agreement yet? No.
Right. So the grant agreement, I will send over the grant language. You'll see some empty spots in there.
Yeah.
For the technical part I have to put in there, but what's really hanging up, I think, hung up the last one was just some of the grant language. So we want to make sure that you guys are comfortable with the grant language. I think at this point, I think it's safe to say that Amy and Peter are safe with the grant, are okay with the grant language, as they were part of that process for the last one, and helped make some of those changes happen. So I can send you guys that. Do I send it to Linda?
Yeah.
Okay.
So is this money interchangeable? I mean, or is it like just in these little silos of what you can spend it on?
So think of it like 2 houses with holes in the roofs and buckets, right? The ARPA bucket's like a pool. So any money you spend over an ARPA can only go into the pool, and that, go through the roof in that house into a big pool. We're only using one big bucket. You'll hear these words buckets because we want the flexibility if it needs to be used for final design, if it needs to be used for bond vote assistance, if it needs to be used for construction. We just have one big bucket. That way we're not shuffling money around, because grant agreements, if you have to amend your grant agreement, it takes 6+ months. It's a long process to amend them. The Clean Water SRF is over in this house over here with it, but it might have multiple buckets. So for example, typically there's like an engineering bucket. So the drops that go into the engineering bucket get paid out of the engineering bucket. There's a bucket over there for maybe archaeology or environmental review. They can.
So the answer is no.
Right. Clean Water SRF is a little bit harder, but it's a little bit challenging. That's why when I look at all the invoices, when projects have their ARPA agreement in place and Clean Water SRF, to make sure we're not double paying for things, and to make sure that the invoices are going where they need to go. So if you told me, because it's 2 completely different systems on our end, not by choice.
Deadline for the ARPA money?
What'd you say?
What's the deadline for the ARPA money? I mean, is it 24?
So the ARPA money, the final design has to be completed by September 30th of 2024. If it's not completed by then, that's when we have to start making some decisions about rescinding money. For construction, so let's say get to that point with final design, construction has to be wrapped up and completed by September of 2026. because all money has to be spent by the end of 2026, but we also have all of our paperwork that we have to submit by that date as well. I can tell you, I've heard through the grapevine that there have been requests put out to the government about maybe extending that 26 date, but I can't guarantee that's going to happen. So we just kind of have to keep our blinders on and just keep focused on the objective at the end of the day, and stuff. So, but the clean water money, that doesn't run out. That has a whole different time clock on it versus the ARPA. The ARPA is the one that's really time sensitive.
The clean water fund loan, we pay up front and get reimbursed.
Both
So
of them. Yeah, both are reimbursement. Yeah.
So
So
we
it's
need to plan on having some money around.
correct. And what we recommend is not to hold on invoices for either of the program. To submit, you pay, essentially the invoice comes in, you pay the engineer, and then you submit the next day all that month's invoices to us, whether you submit it under ARPA or you submit it under Clean Water SRF. And then that way you're getting reimbursed. If you hold money, we have a town right now who's having a serious cash flow issue because they were not reimbursing the engineer. And so now they're upwards of like $300,000 in the hole of engineering costs. And we don't want to see that. We want to see that. And with ARPA, you can only do invoicing once a month. So we just recommend just the same time every month when it comes in, just kind of get into a routine. ARPA also has some different reporting quarterly that we don't do in Clean Water SRF. And I will, once you get the ARPA agreement in place, I will be sending reminders as well as Renee Miller. So you may be interacting with Renee Miller. She's the grant writer on the ARPA grant.
Thank you. That's about all I can take in.
I know it's a lot, and we're willing to come anytime you need us to come to. I could say it a million times, and there's just a lot. There's a lot of moving parts. So we are more than willing to come and talk about as much as you would like, just to make sure everybody understands. I also want to introduce Ashwak.
Yes.
She's on here. She is from the indirect discharge program, and she is permitting the project for the project. So I just wanted to introduce her so you guys are aware that she's part of the team as well. So.
Thank you, Ashwak.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you.
We gave you an awful lot to chew on tonight.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
So please, as you have availability, do take the time to read through the preliminary engineering report. If you have specific questions or concerns, you can just shoot us an email anytime.
Yeah.
It's fine. Otherwise, we will see you.
Okay.
Okay, I'll point out the very last section, section 7.
Recommendations.
A list of some of these next steps.
Okay.
Almost all the way down, so. Like moving forward, that's your best source of information.
Start with section 7.
Yeah.
So are we able, the other people on this board able to get copies of that before?
Yeah.
We don't have copies, they were emailed, I emailed it to you too, but we can have a Kurt make this
We'll
copy.
print them out for you.
I don't have a copy tonight either.
Now, the other question I have is, since the Nazarene Church is going to be damaged, are you going to stop at what used to be the parsonage?
Who condemned it?
Condemned.
It's got, asbestos in it.
Oh,
Is that
So
really
it's-
well known, or is that, I've heard that,
It's private owned,
But
the
not
person who bought the parsonage,
Yeah.
but you can't go into it.
I've been in with the owner, and we looked around, he never mentioned such a thing.
No, it's the one, that's what basically is the vermiculite insulation.
So
Ran into that in my house.
who condemned it? Burner?
I wouldn't go into it,
Okay.
the ceiling's falling
No, it's
down.
not
It's
condemned.
not-
It's not condemned, but I wouldn't go into it. It's
All right.
all asbestos.
Understood.
Doesn't look that bad, I've been inside.
Yeah, it's certainly, it's very good, and the owner is talking about making possibly some housing in the unit, so to me, it sounds like a great opportunity for Wolcott.
Last I heard, it was gonna cost over 100,000 to clean.
So quick thing, because you guys have applied to be a designated village center, the cleanup of asbestos is one of the eligible tax credit costs, which is up to 50%. So recognizing that $100,000 is a lot, and $50,000 or 50% of $100,000 is still a lot. There may also be, if there is a housing conversion component, funds in the new housing bill, especially if it's, aimed at sort of entry level housing. So if the property owner wants to explore options, please have them contact us, because we can.
Yeah, add to that, housing and economic revitalization are two of the big things that the CRRP grant is targeted to. So if there's an opportunity to combine wastewater treatment capacity with either housing or economic vitality, that is a key moment for that grant vehicle.
That may have found you some additional funding for the wastewater, and there may be tools to help that property owner actually remediate that.
Yes.
Vermiculite in big living affects that zone. So,
Now we've really blown up your time.
yes, you were doing so well.
Well, it's important for a lot of things. Thank you for
Okay,
coming
thank
out.
you.
Thank you.
You put start right me up with some.
Thank you, guys.
There's
Thank
no
you, Emily.
last thing for why. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Good night. Thanks.
Let me move on to the project manager's report, and I'll just do the small correspondence under the project.
Okay, I'll try to move quickly here. So transfer station, events are in. We did contact the state environmental group, and they gave us the go that critical is in. 12 days, I mentioned earlier, is tentatively scheduled for last Saturday in June. Price changes, turns out that Richard's new price list is the gold standard because Lamoille County has filed suit. So all the prices are going to be the same for government. I'd like to at least ask everybody to start thinking about an assistant plan. The DOC program is going away as of July 1. We all know that Sylvia struggles a bit without any assistance. And one of the things that we can do is start to advertise for a paid assistant. Might even be a part-time type of thing. But I do think we need to come up with a plan.
Or have a new person that can handle, before you handle both. I mean, people handle it.
We can try to find somebody,
We probably won't, but
we can try.
that's just another option too.
So I don't want to let it linger too long because July is not far away. For roadside mowing, We do have a bid in for roadside mowing. This is from Adam Allen. And he came in at, 9,000, I believe.
And the person from last year did. Receive them.
He was the same person. Yeah, $90 per hour for operator and equipment, which is the same as he charged last year. So we do have that bid in. I should reach out for other bids, right?
Yeah, we didn't put it in the paper or anything.
It's not increasing, it's gone from last year or two.
No, but we would have to, run that in the paper and take.
Well, what does our policy say?
Yeah, this is.
Is it 10? It's over our policy? If that was
It's
10,000.
10,000 now, maybe it's under policy. I'll have to look at
If
it.
it's under policy, then we can make a decision tonight. If it's over policy, I wanna stick, be fair. So I just wanted to feel
So I'll look into that. I mean, I don't know if it's in over here.
But you could do it if you could make a motion, if it's
That's
under
that's true.
or else.
So if anybody like to make that motion,
I will make that motion.
the motion is that we will accept the bid from Bill Allen for $9,000 to roadside mowing. As long as that bid is under our purchasing policy amount. Does that work? Okay.
As long as
you
it
know what it means.
applies. with
Yeah.
the policy.
They were not required to put it out to bid. So it's Bill Allen? I thought you said Bill.
You said Adam
Yeah,
Allen.
that's why I got
It's not,
confused.
it's not.
That's why I said the same person?
No, it's Bill, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is the same person.
So I guess we need a second.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
All right, we also got a concern regarding invasive species in the area, which is related to roadside mowing. There are two species that are in town, and mowing will exacerbate the problem. And so the request is that we mow before these species seed.
Yeah.
Which means we would have to do it right now. The reality in talking to the road crew is that if we did it right now, we'd have to do it again, which is impractical, unaffordable. So the alternative is, we've been asked, this is
Jim Ryan.
is that he would put up signage along his property, asking not to mow along his property. And also to let the public know and understand that taking soil out of the ditches during ditching season is not a good idea, because it will spread the invasive species also.
What are the invasive species?
So one of them is that, of all of those white flowers, and that burns your skin. You can go to the hospital.
That mustard.
Except
That's down south.
Yeah,
It's
it's
that yellow flower mustard stuff.
Yeah.
They're fountain.
Yeah.
The other one is that man who grows
Knotweed.
along the riverside.
Oh,
Yeah.
Japanese knotweed.
But the knotweed that's a different problem.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, knotweed will spread at every nodule, every ring in the stalk can sprout a new plant.
Yeah,
So you don't need to let that seed to spread. It's spreading. If you cut it up and throw it, it's gonna spread.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, the only way to get rid of it is using,
Vinegar,
well, you have to use some
Really,
sort of
really-
herbicide. Vinegar could work.
like a real strong vinegar.
And it has to be applied when it's flowering. So that it draws it down into the roots at the end of the fall. And then you have to do it a second year for everything that didn't.
You
get-
can see they're doing it on the bank of the river.
That stuff is unbelievable.
Is there a way that, so looking on West Hill, you know. Well, I haven't even seen any, but there used to be some across from my driveway, I thought.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
Weed on our property.
Oh, not weed, but the other, the white.
Oh, the white stuff.
Is there a way of like marking it so they don't come along and cut it? Is it so prevalent?
Yes,
I'm thinking, yeah, if landowners could identify it, they could mark it. I mean, if we know what we're looking for.
We can't just ignore it and spread it, though, can continually spread it just because the grass is. I mean, it's true, it's a waste of money to cut the grass right now. There's no sense, but. You know, in Hyde Park, they have a whole group of people that go out, that deal with this invasive stuff, but we're just contributing to it more and more by not doing anything.
all right.
You don't wanna do anything?
No, I do,
Oh.
what I need is citizenry
Yeah.
to participate. in
So,
this damn thing.
Is that somehow something we can do by putting things on the website and front porch forum?
I think front porch forum. But we need the names of these things, people would have.
I have names,
Oh,
and
okay.
pictures, we can do all of that, and we'll do all of that.
I mean,
I
stays
think
done from milfoil, so you have an idea what you're doing with a boat and the nose. I know what it looks like, but,
Is this the flower?
yeah, it looks almost like Queen's Anne lace.
Oh, that is Queen Anne's lace.
Yeah, that's not the same.
No,
No.
No, and I have pictures, we can, don't even expect anything.
Okay.
It looks similar to it, but it isn't. And it will burn.
All right, so I will start a web and front porch forum campaign,
Well, I'd ask Jim Ryan to write up a blurb for you. I mean, that's the person who has the concern and say, the town is willing to do this. Would you please write up a blurb that I can put on my website? And that way you don't have to feel overburdened with, doing it all, because the townspeople will constantly want you to be doing everything for them. Have him write it. And he's got a lot of background working for the state in that department.
all right, so we got a quote from Pike, and Dylan asked me to present this to the board. So we have three options, this is for the North Wolcott Road. Option one is to machine pave, spot shim and pave 3 locations, approximately 7,000 feet. And the cost for that is $224,000. Option two is to do the same really across the entire road, which is $275,000. That is just for shim. And the third is to do the entire road, which would be $424,000. I think that our grant falls into option one, and Dylan wants to ask the board if they would like to accelerate the process and use some ARPA money to shim the entire road.
Well, did he ever ask Michelle if did he amend his permit?
It's been amended, signed, and returned.
Amended to do what?
To do option one.
And option one is just a small section.
That's right.
You said there were 3 options?
Right.
So one is 224,000.
One's 224, the other one's 275, and the third is 420. I think that we should, my personal feeling is that would be an awful lot of ARPA money to put into that road. I think that the road study has been completed on North Wolcott Road. We haven't gotten the data results back. A number of trucks I counted on there just today, which was 16 that I saw. I believe that we're going to have the data to try to present and make the decision closing that road through tractor trailer traffic. The 424,000 proposal here is assuming that the road's going to get beat up at the rate that historically it's been beat up. And my personal preference is try to stop beating that road. Yeah.
So you're recommending 1 or 2?
One. Unless there's any objection.
And is that? And where is that?
Where is it?
Where are they gonna pay?
They're gonna pay the lower, basically it's North Wolcott, and then lower.
So we enter on?
Route 15.
It's the board's pleasure.
I'll second it. Was that a motion, Kurt?
No, it's just mine.
Information. Make a motion. I'll make a motion to choice one. Under the circumstances.
We can second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Damien Webb lawsuit. I don't believe we've been together since we had a discussion with the lawyers. So LC or VLCT is taking the case on our behalf. They have farmed it out to a lawyer in Middlebury who's taking the case. They're allocating $20,000. In the allocation right now is $20,000 in our defense. The process may take up to 1 year before anything is settled on it. The lawyer who's handling this case he seems quite cautious, but in his words, there wasn't a tree for to bark up. That the argument really is not holding water as far as you can see it so far.
Has the town been served?
We waived service. And we.
Because it's cheaper. In the long run, it'll be less expensive to get on with it. We went over all the scenarios.
Wow.
It was his advice to waive it. Because it buys him more time as well.
And he wants to know what, he doesn't really know what he wants. He knows what he kind of wants, but he needs some answers. I don't know legal talk. Doesn't he have to come back with stuff? and he wants it sooner than later.
Right, well, he wants to buy the time to do that. He's hesitant to contact Mr. Webb at this point because he doesn't clearly understand what the complaint is. So I think we're in competent hands with this company. But we did waive service. And we also got a letter from the law firm, which is really addressed to the select board and town employees. And it's simply stating that while this case is open, that no document should be destroyed. No document should be forwarded outside of the office. All kind of the usual precautions to protect the evidence. Memorial kennels. So we got a bill from kennels for a dog that was there for 30 days. And I believe that our ordinance indicates 10 days only. I'm not sure exactly what happened. The dean also mentioned that it should have been a 10-day stay, at which point the dog would be put up for adoption through one of the services. And I think there are new owners at Lemoyle, and I think this is a hiccup, basically. So we've talked to them, they understand the 10 days, but there was one dog there that was there for 30 days. The LED lights for the town office proposal, I mentioned this last time. And I'm looking at Efficiency Vermont to try to find some way to get some subsidies for this. Efficiency Vermont appears to want to, they partner with retail organizations. And that is not what we're doing. I'm just trying to look into it a little bit further and opening up a discussion with LCPC about other options we have to help try to finance this LED switchover. I think on our to-do list is the lease. We need to think about leasing this land over here for snow removal. That is kind of it's a standing open issue right now. Is there any reason that we would not want to start to have that discussion with the state? Equity grant survey. I think Deb might be able to calculate this better than I can. So the planning commission had the equity grant survey, right? Have we been?
It's a health equity thing too, yeah.
Yeah. Have we been granted a grant or?
That's my understanding that the planning commission met a couple of weeks ago and we had a Zoom meeting with a couple of the representatives. One is in Philadelphia, one in Chicago, and so they asked that the planning committee complete a survey and submit that to them so that they better understand our needs. And based upon that survey, they will develop some ideas for Wolcott and kind of prioritize what may be needed in town. And then they would like to have an ambassador hired who would then be able to come up with surveys for the community to get input. And so it's just on, what might be needed, downtown as far as, I don't know, people getting around or sense of community or it's very open-ended at this point, and so they really haven't come back to us with any specific ideas.
Who's doing the survey?
Each member submitted their own copy, each member of the planning commission submitted a survey because we didn't have time to warn a meeting and, you know, get together as a group.
So these have already been submitted.
It's submitted, yeah, the deadline was has passed.
Okay.
So that's the one Megan came in, but she never came back to us that we got it.
Yeah, but she was involved in this last planning meeting.
No.
No. Right? I think so.
She didn't say anything.
So the portalet for the rail trail is, I think we're probably in a position where we can order that for July. Right?
You just have to find a space for it.
Right, right.
Is it possible to put it on that telephone pole?
No. It's too close that people wanna eat.
No, I'm talking about the one further up, closer to the trail.
The trouble is I don't think it's on our property, and that's part of what we need to do for the plowing and the portal,
Right,
get an easement from the state.
correct.
I don't know if you can put it one place this month and another place next month.
Yeah, pretty good.
I mean, I don't know.
Okay, well, I will move forward with looking into the rates, the current rates, and as part of the lease land project, will include the road. As I mentioned, the road study is complete on North Wolcott. Belvedere had a problem, so the system went over to Belvedere before it could get to Gulf Road, but next week it's coming back to Gulf Road. We'll have some good data on that as well. We did apply for the Bella application and we did the onboarding meeting. This is the for the brownfield study for the Champlain oil parcel up here, which is in a sense is an insurance policy for it. As far as I understand right now, the brownfield study will be completed sometime this summer. I have been in touch with Champlain Oil. They're aware of it. I think they're being very, very patient, but I think part of that patience is because we're the only buyer. So, Pete's equipment, I just want to bring this up. This is the problem that we brought up last time. You know, we had a $2,500 rental of a machine, and the end bill was double that, over $5,000. Because of some damage that was done to the machine. And so they acknowledged the damage and said we're willing to pay for that damage, but we were not willing to pay for their maintenance and their previous, you know, what they were basically doing, replacing parts on this thing and charging it down for it. Yeah. So they came back and said, okay, we'll credit you $75. Which was actually insulting. And one of the things that they said was that when you rent these things, they automatically change the blades after each user rents it. This is a very, very expensive package. And there was nowhere on the invoice, nowhere in the rental agreement, nowhere, anywhere I could find where they stated that, you know, you agreed to, when you rent this thing, you also are going to pay for the blade replacement. So personally, my plan is to continue to fight with it.
Yeah, I agree.
It really, really scares me.
Sounds smelly and an odor to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
File cabinets, last thing, is the file cabinet. The zoning has several file cabinets back in the vault. They're getting overfull and breaking down. I'm proposing to buy 2 new file cabinets, which are twice the size of these. And they're lateral, so they're, they go sideways like this. They're 36 inches wide rather than 20
Where you
inches.
getting the money?
And
Well, the only place I see, and I can't find it, is, we have fund balance for, town equipment. And that's where we're supposed to be buying like computers that break down. And I noticed there's still $1,100 in there. Otherwise, they're gonna have to wait until the next budget comes around because it just keeps spending. So we have $1,116 in office equipment there in that account. Do we have any intentions of buying any new computers or anything? Coming up, I mean, you just bought, I think you bought a lot of them, the emergency one got a new one. Who else got a new one? Here, you,
mine broke, so
is it dead?
yeah, it's completely dead. And so I've just been gone back to the portable thing to look along with that. Are you talking about this budget here?
Well, there's no money in the budget, I mean, I don't know where you're gonna get it,
For the file cabinets?
yeah,
Um,
I'm just starting to get nervous that we.
But we don't need to buy it, it's not an emergency.
Yeah.
The doors don't close, but that's okay. Yeah. Not an emergency.
Well, where you were gonna get the money,
Huh?
where did you think you get the money?
I didn't even think, when I thought about, is this something that is useful to be replaced? And I should have upped the money first and picked it up less. Okay.
So listen, I think that maybe we need to look at the whole picture too, about whether those zoning records belong in there too. Because that's an issue,
We talked about.
that's a big issue.
There's another file cabinet in here that's like board stuff from years and years.
Yeah,
ago.
that's an ancient one, yeah.
So that's an issue, what's gonna happen with that? Is anybody gonna put this through
Yeah. Okay. Is there any money in the upcoming budget for any sort of zoning stuff on this?
it? I don't think there is anything significant. All right, so we'll table the others.
But I'll go through this and more. Or what we can do is, next meeting, we're gonna designate if there's any money into one of these assigned fund balances.
Mhm.
So what are you thinking it would be cost?
What were they? About $300 at least. $600.
A good brand.
Yeah.
So we could, consider next meeting, putting $600 in the equipment fund balance.
Don't buy anything by Anderson Hickey.
Okay.
I mean, when I worked for the state, they were absolute crap.
Mhm.
And HON, HON, they have quite a range of quality.
Mhm.
And you know, my only concern was, you know, definitely watch out for low end because
Yeah. So that's a good point. I mean, they can be very expensive.
yeah,
And so I was trying to find the quality versus cost balance.
yeah, I understand.
There's something you can't see. You know, it's,
Just want it to be durable. It's,
yeah, yeah. As far as longer term projects, I mean, they just keep getting pushed to the background due to kind of day-to-day issues. They're still working on green burial policy. I'm putting together the basics of the North Wolcott Road policy and dangerous building policy. Also, been working with a grant. There is a grant out there for it's a small safety grant. Minimum is $5,000, maximum is $30,000, and it is a grant that will assist us in getting signage on all of our roads in the proper order. Including, you know, stop signs, chevrons, illuminator signs. Yeah, around town, there are quite a number that are missing. There's areas where stop signs should be that don't exist at all. Signs have been knocked down, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So I have been working with LCPC on trying to get this grant. And we'll have the support of LCPC. They're going to send in a letter of support for Wolcott. I need to go around town and get a really, really good inventory of what signs we need and where. This is due, the application is due on the 16th, so I have like 9 days to get this in and done. And so it's one of those grants that popped up, you know, they gave you 2 weeks to do it. But I think it's well worthwhile. And, you know, beyond that, with the highway department, they're continuing to grade berm removal. We're working with LCPC on the road segments. As I mentioned, roadside mowing. The brush cutting has been completed. The guardrail installation has been completed. Ditching, culvert installations is needed. And over the past few days, they've been hauling winter sand. So we came to an agreement with gravel again this year where we can start the hauling and not pay for anything until July. That's it for me.
Thank you. Well, let's quickly move on to the select board review. We had a couple of correspondence things I'll quickly go over. We got a thank you from the Northern Rivers Land Trust for our membership. Seeing as they're going to be the conservation is for the forest. They are having their annual meeting this Sunday, 4 to 6 at the Mountain View Country Club in Greensboro. You're welcome to go. Also, I'll pass this around, reminding you that on Tuesday, the Planning Commission is going to have their annual meeting in Marvin Awards here. The public's invited they do an awful lot for us and they really would, you know, like people to come out and it'd be great if some people from Wolcott were here to show the support for all the things they give us thousands of dollars in technical assistance every year. I don't think we could do a lot of it. All right, town representative to the Loyal Valley Rail Trail meetings. Anyone? Have we heard of anybody who's interested in serving? Well, I'll put that on front porch forum, see if I can get somebody. Health officer appointment. That comes up June 30th. Health officer and deputy. Bernard was in a couple weeks ago, last meeting. Kind of gave us a quick overview of what he does, or has been doing. He had some concerns with his lack of communicating with the town, and paperwork, but he asked to be reappointed again. My thought, it's up to the board, would be to reappoint him, but to appoint Kurt as the deputy. And then we could have a little tighter communication of what was going on, where we'd set up some boundaries with him in terms of every time he goes out, you know, he needs to log it and let Kurt know what he's working on. Is my thought, but I don't know if people have other thoughts too.
What's that?
I agree. Oh, yes.
I don't know if you've had a chance to think about it, how do you feel about it? I don't know. I just feel like it's really big for this select board to take over, for you to take over, because it seems like you're overwhelmed now. It's just another huge thing that will be pulling you.
Well, I'm doing it now in many ways. And the difficulty is, a health officer is, you know, a position with quite a bit of responsibility. And there's quite a bit of process behind it. So, if the health officer wants to confront a situation or on somebody's private property, there's a process to go through that needs to be adhered to strictly. And there's training for this. The health officer manual is really covers an awful lot of situations. And I don't believe that Bernard has incorporated those details into his working the role. I think he knows septic systems to some extent. He knows the people. But as far as solving any problems, I don't think a problem's been solved in 4 years. I don't know any problem regarding this. I mean, there's still homes that are absolute health risks, and nothing happens. And I think the difficulty there is, I think he's very capable of going up to these properties and kind of laying down the word.
Yeah.
And then he gets shoved up. So the idea of my becoming the backup is, in reality, I would be the primary, but we just call Bernard the primary. I mean, that's the reality of it, right? So I don't see any other choice. I don't see anybody stepping forward. I've asked all over It's one of those jobs that nobody wants. And Bernard wants it on the way he does it. And I believe that in working with the state and some of the agencies that can support us in this activity have been kind of burned by both. They're not really happy to deal with this. And so it filters all the way down to junk and trash and illegal junkyards and sewer systems and houses that are full of garbage. And the state really kind of, and it's the only group in the state that will not answer calls from. And it's because we burned it. And so there's a whole rebuild that has to happen there. So I guess that's just my comment on the situation. I told Linda that, yeah, I'll do it because I just don't see anybody else doing it. Nobody's come forward to do it. And, yeah.
If you're willing to do that, it would be greatly appreciated, but it sounds like we need a new health officer.
And,
You know, really.
yeah, I mean, we do. Okay.
But then you're looking at a paid position because you gotta have a regular job, and when can you step out of your regular job and attend to this?
No, I understand. I'm aware of the burden it would put on you, like, if you're willing to accept that.
But, the thing is, in fact, I've been doing it, to the degree I can. I haven't been doing the paperwork and I haven't been doing that part. But we've taken the junk committee and the junk ordinance and have really incorporated a lot of what the health officer should do.
So that's exactly what I was thinking while you're having this conversation, of where the lines are, between the litter committee and the health officer.
Be nice with attitude and procedure, it'd be nice if these people would answer the phone with all their calls.
Well, you have to earn it back, I think. It's just, that's life. You burn somebody and then you want it back again. I guess, for instance, there's two people that have been working with, and one of them, these are state people. I've been trying to get Bernard to. He keeps telling me he's working with them. I called them up and they said, their attitude is, we got it, go away, and then nothing happens. So this trailer up here with all the cars, says exactly what happened there. The junkyard on North Wolcott Road, that's exactly what happened there. So it gets turned over to them, and
They don't do anything.
Why does it get turned over to them though? Do they take it or does it just get turned over? to
the
them?
Bernard calls them and brings them in
Oh,
and says, here's the problem. And they acknowledge and say, yep, this is the problem. We'll take it. We got it.
And then nothing happens.
And then nothing happens.
Too much job security up there.
So this fellow passed away on the Wolcott Road where the.
Ray Fleming.
Yeah, where the junkyard is. So, I call up the state and say, hey, somebody may want to buy this, or, maybe, are there any restrictions that the state has put on?
His son's still there, isn't he? His son isn't there anymore, I thought he was.
I think it's a sister that was trying to deal with the real estate. And so anyway, I called it just to find out if there are any liens.
Really, his daughter.
It's his daughter.
Are there any liens on this, or does the state have anything? And they said, no, we've turned it over to our legal department. They'll be in touch with you. And that was 2 weeks ago. So, yeah. You really gotta, you just gotta.
Well, do you have any other alternative? I mean, I don't know, I just,
Yeah, it's kind of like a transfer station, it's just what are the alternatives? I don't know.
No, I just assumed his son was there because his son was the one doing all the. I'm not sure it was son doing, messing with
I
the
didn't know
vehicles.
he was,
Well, I don't know, somebody was there. Have been there off and on over the years working on vehicles. Vehicles would show up, some would disappear, some would never disappear. I don't think it was Tony working.
I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, enough said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So do you wanna make a motion? Do you wanna think about it till next, we can wait till next meeting?
Let's wait for this.
Okay. But I think you need, looking at your list there, I think you need to designate or let go of some of these things on your list. You have to reach out to any of
I'm gonna give you the check.
Okay, we have, Town Hill Culvert update, there really isn't much, I thought there might be, Joey was, doing some, our engineer was off doing a couple other projects all winter, he's back working for the town, we're in the process of, having the same people do a survey of the property that did the Brook Road. I guess Dylan's been in touch, is working closely with them. That's all I really have to do to update on that. I did want to say that, I got a phone call tonight from someone, a select board member in Elmore, who wanted to let us know that, MSI has been using the Elmer Pond Road, trucking huge trucks with heavy rock on the Elmore Pond Road, and he doesn't think that they should be doing that our roads are, posted for that. Anyway, tonight I asked Belinda, and they do not even have an overweight permit for this.
Okay.
I'm thinking of it. Lamoille County Sheriff's Office contract, I looked them over, pretty much like last year. I did notice that we need to designate someone to represent the town to make decisions regarding animals seizures when it incurs any cost. Other than that, that's the only thing I saw.
Yeah, isn't that as a result of the Johnsons?
Yeah, yeah. But it just says the Wolcott Select Board shall designate authorized contacts and shall provide authorized, to them. So someone, either someone from the board or designee, not the whole board, one person who can make, quick decisions concerning monetary costs when they seize animals.
Yeah, so I've been working with Dean, along these lines for, I think that's just kind of something we've been doing. Dean called tonight with the bull up in North Wolcott. One side to the, yeah. And apparently the sheriff is now taking complaints on it. Yeah. Sheriff wanted to know what we're gonna do about it.
How is it? Is it all right?
It's 13
It's there,
years
it's still
old.
there now, but it might not be around much longer, depending on if that cancerous thing gets it.
Yeah, look at it.
No, it has a cancerous tumor or something on it.
Oh, has it? Yeah, it's an old
Yeah.
law. The concerns is that it can't, the regulations require a three-sided shelter.
Two-legged
And
structure.
if you have a three-sided shelter, but it's all made out of metal. And so it's hot as can be.
It's like with a family of a bull. Yeah. It's good now, that's, yeah, no,
Anyway, I
anyway,
guess what I'm trying to get at is, yeah, I think we got this. Yeah, we got it.
hard to tell up there.
Yeah.
So you'll be the designee when you send it in, okay. So can we, oh, so the voters already approved,
Right.
the amount of money and everything else is the same, so I'll just sign it and turn it around. Shed pump purchase, I asked Deb and Bob, our new maintenance person, to go look at the sheds and see what size, would be the most appropriate for the amount of stuff we have and the cost.
So Bob and I did check all of the sheds that are on the lot in North Wolcott and also at the car place on Route 15. If we get something, if we don't get something on the lot, if there were to be a custom item, we'd be looking at September. So we really focused on what is currently available. The small size that is available is a 10 by 12 cottage, they call it, as opposed to a shed. The cottage, the difference is that it has a higher, the roof has a higher peak. This particular one has gable vents, it has 2 windows, and it'll be 10 by 12 cottage. The cost is $4,779. And printed out a photo and I forgot to bring it in, but this is now what it looks like. Color wise, maybe it would kind of almost blend in with the library, and it would be probably, well, yeah, next to the generator, between the where the generator is and the fence that goes into the park, there would be sufficient space there. And it is currently on hold until tomorrow morning. And there would be no charge for delivery in town, and placing it, the charge would be well, it's between $100 and $200, depending on size, I think, but anyway, so no more than $200. Obviously, there's tax for the town, but that seemed like the best deal to us.
We still wanna, the board's thoughts on that.
You need a shed. You have an opportunity to get one with ARPA funds. This is a good quality shed, it's gonna last.
Leave the room for a moment.
So if we, I think now is our up.
Well, I see the need.
So basically, it's gonna be around $5,000. Because they want. They're not charging the hauling fee, it's a delivery fee.
It's,
Might as well call it that.
The placement, yeah.
Yeah, either way, it's a
Yeah,
delivery fee.
so it has to be flat. I think the highway guys could come over and just level it out, put some, put it in the stone or something, yeah.
Yeah, I think he has some recommendations of what the foundation should be, right?
yes.
What was his recommendation?
Well, you know, the smaller one, you know, as long as it's either 1 feet or 10 feet, you know, it can go on here. Yeah, you can have whatever underneath it. Otherwise, if it's any larger than that, it needs to be on a slab across the right. Is what he's saying.
Well, I have one at our house, which is by 12, the same thing, and I just put cinder blocks on it.
Right,
Yeah,
that's,
The town needs a cinder blocks on it.
yeah. Yeah, I think we just wanna make sure it's level.
And that's not a big deal.
right, I'll make a motion that we, agree to purchase, the 10 by 12 cottage for up to $5,000 from
I'll second that motion.
whoever they are, Town and Country. Richard second?
Yes, I did.
Do we have any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's carry. Make a motion to it.
There was a request for next.
No, that's just, she's telling us it hasn't gone, she wasn't asking for anything yet.
Okay.
It was just,
He paid.
she can, so it hasn't gone to tax sale, so she's in charge till then.
She did.
It's the treasurer. Once it goes to tax sale, then,
Okay.
I mean, if he doesn't pay, whatever. Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second that motion. All those in favor? Aye. Why don't we just sit here on the next meeting?